Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. I would like to welcome everyone to my first webinar of the year, AP in 2023 and beyond, delivering value across the enterprise. I would like to thank my thought leadership partner for today's webinar, Esker. They share my commitment to thought leadership, but also share my commitment to impacting the career success of those who use their products and services in the areas of AP, AR, and Treasury, and the office of the CFO. So let's go ahead and do a little housekeeping items. First of all, if anyone is interested in receiving a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, please send an email to Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. Again, that's Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. If you're interested in receiving a copy of today's presentation, please send an email to Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. Again, that's Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. I'll be able to take your questions in the questions area of your GoToWebinar control panel at any time during the webinar today. If I don't happen to get to your question, fear not, I will follow up with you directly after the webinar. Also, we'll have a very short survey at the end of the webinar today. Sincerely appreciate everyone's consideration in answering the survey. We're always strive to improve the ROI we offer our event attendees for their valuable time. We know there are more and more webinars out there, so we are always trying to increase the value that we offer, deliver great content in ways that offer you a smile and with a little bit of personality, which is definitely needed in the space. So a little bit of agenda for today. So first of all, we're going to review some high-level survey results. So I've been doing a lot of surveys in the AP/AR and Treasury arena. So I'm going to share some survey results. We're going to take a look at the expectations in 2023. We're going to look at the resources that people have to deliver in 2023. Then we're going to dive in and really look at what a strategic accounts payable look like. So I'll get away a little bit. A lot more is being expected of AP in 2023 in terms of delivering value beyond AP. So it's exciting to see what that looks like. And then, of course, more importantly, how technology, when aligned with the right process and people, can empower AP success. And of course, we're going to end things up, as we always do, with some key takeaways so you can have things that you can put into immediate action after the webinar is over today. So before we get started, before I share my initial set of survey results, I'm going to go ahead and launch the first polling question, as I want to see how the audience compares with some of my recent survey results. So just asking you to share with us if the responsibilities of your AP team in 2023 are those going to increase significantly, increase slightly, stay the same, or decrease. I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions here today. Those of you interested in receiving a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, you'll have to answer all of our polling questions here today. The other thing that I'll be doing in looking at survey results is I'll show you some trends that I'm starting to see. I've been doing surveys in pretty similar area the last 2 or 3 years, so it's interesting to see some of the results year over year. Also, if you'd like a copy of the survey report for any of the surveys I mentioned, just go ahead and reach out to me. I'm happy to share those with you if you want to dive deep on any results. There's some interesting results. Mostly I look at company size, but industry as well. So I'm happy to share those with you as well. So let's go ahead, give you a few more seconds, then we'll take a quick peek at the survey results and then comment, and then we'll see how those compare with the survey results that I have seen. So let's go ahead and close that. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to answer that question. So interesting to see. It's really nice to see, right? So over 60%, so see those responsibilities are increasing. So that's kind of step one. We'll talk about step two after that. So it's nice to see that responsibilities are increasing. The other side of that is our AP teams being given the resources that they need to deliver in those values, and are they going to have time to spend on activities that matter instead of focusing on non-value add tasks. So just kind of keep that in your mind. So we saw we saw 52%, right, increase there. So let's take a look and see how you guys in the audience compare with the survey results that I'm about to share. So the survey results that I share, we had results from well over 250 companies in the U.S. Across a good range of company size, pretty consistent if we look at. So we looked at company size in terms of number of employees. So small was less than 100, mid-size was 100 to 1,000, and enterprise was over 1,000. So just keep that in mind as well. So what we saw from the survey I gave you guys was we had 51% increase, and we see 53%. So we definitely see the responsibilities of the AP team are going up. What we'd also like to see, we asked, what about the time spent on strategic activities? We'd like to see that go up as well. So it's good to see that we see a similar case, right? Over 50%, over 60%, right? 65 to 63. So that's great to see. So one of the things we're trying to do is get you thinking, and if you're a treasury, think about AP, think about what's going on. You really want to empower best practices. And so you'll start to see, a lot of times we think best practices, right? There's only like a small percentage of companies, and only the big companies are implementing best practices, but that's definitely changing. So what we'll start to see in our survey results is that we are seeing over half the companies out there, right, are really empowering their teams to deliver success and having those expectations. So if you're an AP leader, treasury leader, you should have increased expectations, but you should also be providing your team the resources to do that. And if you're not challenging your team or giving them the resource, then that can absolutely be a competitive disadvantage, because as we'll talk about, AP done right definitely has an impact on the bottom line. So interesting to see there. So we also asked, we have more responsibilities, right? What about the complexity of processing the invoices? And so again, we start to see that we do see, right? There is going to be some processing complexity going up over 53%, right? Companies that processing complexity is going to go up. There can be many reasons for that. Couple of the most complicating ones that I've seen, really starting to look at international suppliers, maybe fewer vendors in different countries, maybe you're doing mergers and acquisitions, maybe you're working on your supply chain, so that can be significant as well. But you'll see that we also saw that in going into 2022 as well, and so we're seeing a trend of that complexity. So again, more responsibilities, which is good, but what's underlying that, in addition to more responsibilities, what other challenges might we have, and what support might we need? So what about process? What about, okay, the types we do? What about the number of invoices processed? And so again, the number of invoices processed is expected to go up, right? So hopefully that means we have expectations for our business to go up as well, because obviously if we're spending more money, investing more money in accounts payable side, we want to see it on the other side. But we can see the invoices, right? Number of invoices is going up. So setting the lay of the land here for AP in 2023, right? We have more responsibilities, more time for those, even though we have increased number of invoices and increased complexity. And then we just kind of dive in just a little bit, right? About complexity and processing and things of that nature. We asked folks to share with us the percent of electronic payments, if those are going to increase. And we start to see that companies are really moving towards electronic payments, the percentage of electronic payments. So it's good to see that folks are moving away from checks. There's still a lot of companies that rely on checks and prefer checks. Survey results I've shared before, 30% of companies still report they prefer to pay by check, and 30% still prefer to receive by check. So we still have that mismatch. And we also wanted to see what kind of headwinds that might be out there, right? In terms of the company's DPO, depending on maybe their business conditions. So we asked companies, do you expect your DPO to increase, decrease, stay the same, right? So we see that we have 44% stay the same, but we still see some folks are expecting it to increase, right? So that makes our supplier relationships a little bit more challenging, and so we need to make sure that we are optimizing those supplier relationships because we might not be paying them as quickly as normally. So we want to make sure that we are aligned there, and along with the timing of that, the type of payments is going to be important as well. So the other thing that we wanted to look at was some of the inherent barriers that we see to AP done right really depends on we want to take control of the type and timing of payments, but a lot of times just collaborating on the type of payments seems to be in struggle. There seems to be silos, not only within outside of AP, but within, and also in terms of the relationships with the suppliers, what's best for them, but also maybe collaborating with Treasury and seeing what's optimal from the cash flow perspective. And so we wanted to ask folks, what about the time spent on supplier relationships? And then we also asked them, do you plan to spend more time collaborating with Treasury? And so good news is 48% increase time spent on supplier relationships. So I've been preaching this for a long time. So the better relationships that you have with suppliers, right, the more control that you can have over how and when you make payments. But also on the other side, if DPO is going to be going up, right, that communication is going to be key. You want to have those good supplier relationships, especially important as we start to see more and more supply chain issues. So we need to be able to count on our suppliers. My wife actually works in procurement now, and she's told me already horror stories this year of customer or clients calling up and say, we're no longer going to make that for you anymore out of nowhere. So it's important that you have depth in those relationships. So if you know there's issues, or you know that they have the possibility to pull the rug out from under you, you need to make sure that's going to be communicated with you in any case, but also especially if you're in the manufacturing area. And also time spent collaborating with Treasury. In theory, that's going to be a good thing. We want to see more collaboration. And be honest, when I was back in Treasury, there was not enough collaboration on that side of it. My best practice is for companies to have like a portfolio. This is the amount of payment types that we would optimally make based on that supplier profile. So we want to get away from checks, but there are some folks that might take longer. There's challenges, so there's reasons for that. So we have an optimum percentage checks. We have optimum percentage ACH in America. We have optimum other ways to pay, maybe optimum by credit card that we can get to get rebates and all that good stuff. But we shouldn't force our suppliers to accept a certain way to get paid and take haircuts and not be honest with that, because that's going to damage our supplier relationships. Again, supply chain issues, right? We want to be able to count on those supplier relationships. There's a lot of dynamics going on, so we want to have those relationships, and we want to be able to not only control but also have predictability in terms of those payments, when they're going to be made, right? Why are we making them at certain times? So we want to be able to give that predictability to Treasury so they can optimize cash movement. So we want to make sure we're not going to hit Treasury with some big AP number, a weekly one, whatever that might be for you. But if we don't let them know what's going on, we might have too big of a number, or we might get stuck and have to borrow, which would be bad, high borrowing costs. If we do international business, we can have some misalignments in our FX exposures, and so we want to collaborate with Treasury. So interesting survey results there, the lay of the land there. All right, so we have AP is getting a more strategic role. That's a good thing. Some more time spent on strategic activities, and that's backed up by, right, what do I consider strategic activities? Here's two that are real important: spending time on supplier relationships and collaborating with Treasury. And so I'm excited to see that in the marketplace. Again, this is best practice for me, to spend more time on collaboration, supplier relationships. And so we're seeing almost half the companies move towards this, where if we were to ask this probably 5 years ago, that number probably would have been in the teens at most. So I'm happy to see that. So let's dive in a little bit more. So let's talk about what strategic accounts payable looks like. And so some of these things you might say, yeah, it seems like common sense, but some of it is to get you thinking, right? Thinking, asking questions, having conversations. maybe you're not the AP leader. It'll inspire you to have a conversation there. Maybe if you're the AP leader, and it helps you see, you know what, these are things that we can work on. This helps me make the business case for investing, possibly in an AP automation solution. So what strategic AP looks like. So I would say, what does that best in class look like, which is possible for companies of all sizes across all industries in today's world. Of course, we need to enable remote work. We're still seeing the vast majority of folks, once they're working from home, a lot of folks are still working from home. I think there is some debate on that. And for me, I've worked from home for a long time. I think what we've seen is a lot of companies are never going to go back to the 5 days a week. So if nothing else, we're going to have a lot of hybrid working environment. So we have to be able to allow our folks to be productive in that remote environment. Of course, we want to eliminate manual processes because of time wasted. And so one of the things when I talk about another webinars about metrics, it'd be great for folks to track, right, how much time your staff is spending in certain areas, and you might not even know certain manual processes exist. So we really have to take a deep dive into those processes and always ask yourself, why is that a manual process? And even though it might be outside of your normal workflow, you can still mitigate those manual processes. We need to enhance visibility. So visibility on all fronts, visibility across the entire cycle. We can even start with supplier onboarding, right, P2P, and then when the payments go out the door, and then all communications that are going on with our suppliers as well, visibility into the contracts, look at the terms. So we really want to enhance that visibility. Visibility allows us to make data-driven decisions. And when I've asked questions about what are the frictions in delivering the most value from accounts payable, we still get a lot of visibility issues. I can't see across the whole process. I can't see the bottlenecks. I can't see the trends with suppliers. I can't be proactive, and so that's big. We talked about improving supplier relationships. Part of that is eliminating asymmetries of information, right, with your suppliers. Supplier portals can be very helpful in that. We'll touch on that later. But we want to have authentic, open communication with our supplier relationships. So we are looking at the same information. So really, part of improving supplier relationships is eliminating issues that you might have, right? Issues from your side or from their side, the way you get invoices, the formats, things of that nature, so that you're on the same page. So you're looking at the same information. We don't want to waste time on the phone. Again, exact numbers off the top of my head, I don't know, but the hours that people spend on the phone with suppliers, a lot of times those conversations aren't necessary, and it causes friction in the relationships. And then, of course, strategic AP allows us to, I would say, optimize our cash flow, to really look at what is the timing of our payments, and then along that can be what's the timing of our payments to certain suppliers. Now, we want to love all our suppliers, but there may be certain suppliers where it may be that we have discount opportunities. We might want to take those, but overall, in certain suppliers, we might not be able to take those. In certain suppliers, we may have a better relationship. We might be able to extend those terms. So we want to work with Treasury to optimize that cash flow. Again, remember our survey results, almost half the folks, over 40%, were going to increase collaboration with Treasury. And so that's important. Another thing about enabling remote work, kind of along the same lines, digging a little deeper, I would say business continuity matters. Obviously, you've all learned that from COVID, but empowering people to work remotely, part of that is empowering folks to review what they need to review, right, and do the approvals that they need to do when they're on the road. Some of those approvals come outside of accounts payable. They make it all the way up to the CFO, so we need to be able to allow those to happen and allow those people to make decisions, not just, oh, I got an approval. Well, I want to be able to look at it, right? This is a new vendor at $10 million. Maybe the CFO wants to say, well, I didn't know that was coming. So let me take a look in there. Let me have the technology. Let me do that. Business agility, I would say business agility matters. Part of that is the predictability that we have. So we have visibility in there, right? So we know things might happen. So we might have supplier issues, right? This might not be normally thought of as accounts payable, but maybe our suppliers are having issues, and they can let us know, right? We're not going to be able to supply you the products, or you can see, right? Maybe you're coming to the end of the month and you're expecting a big payment from a supplier, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, somebody needs to know that's not coming in and understand why. And again, remote and hybrid are here to stay. This is from 2022, but I think from what I've seen is that full-time work from the office is really a lot lower than that full-time. So we talked about wanting to eliminate manual tasks. So again, just to put some numbers behind that, we saw this. I can't waste time, never can, but it's more important that we have more responsibilities and more complexity going on, right? AP has more responsibilities in 2023, more complex, and also what we've seen is that AP has more of a seat at the strategic table. So I often characterize the role of AP in 4 different buckets. One of them is purely transactional and not looked to for strategic activities. That percentage is shrinking, and so we're starting to see even some folks being looked to beyond AP to be involved in conversations that are strategic for the company, straight with the CFO. So we want to make sure we're mitigating that time spent on non-value add activities. And then, of course, my soapbox, again, on the enhancing visibility, just a little bit more, maybe a scare tactic or more of an incentive here, right? You got to communicate this. If you're having troubles and workflows and bottlenecks and supplier issues and inefficiency issues and issues with treasury, maybe you can't manage what you can't see, right? And blind spots create process inefficiency. Again, asymmetry damages supplier relationship, and even amongst your AP staff, waste time. So there's a lot of inherent productivity drag among AP teams, and even if you have an AP automation solution in place, you should always be looking at continuous improvement, areas where bottlenecks occur and where you can do better. And then visibility allows us to make educated decisions about existing discounts. So even though times are hard and DPO might be going over in general, it almost always makes sense to take a discount, but also you can explore discount opportunities as well. And you can also, that can help you be a partner with your suppliers, help them be successful, help that supply chain, right, to stay intact, right? So that might help them supply what your company needs when you need it, which can be important. So we want to definitely enhance that. So let's talk about improving supplier relationships, which we know is important. We talked about taking more control, right, over how and when we pay, and communicating when we might be paying late and why. So we want open lines of communication, right? The supplier portal is really helping that. If you look at technology, we don't want asymmetries of information. Again, tools like supplier portals empower real-time collaboration, right? And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we deliver the remittance information our suppliers need. So AP on our side, it translates to AR done right on your supplier side. So that needs to be communicated as well. That shows you're trying to offer value company to company. If you have more supplier relationships, better, you have more accurate, you get more on-time payments, or they get more on-time payments, you lower that. Proactive communication and payment delays. Again, at the end of the day, just looking at supplier relationships, why they matter. We deliver more control, types, and timing, but also allows us to be more of a partner, maybe through discounting opportunities and being aware when there may be cogs in our supply chain that we can share up to the office of the CFO. I guarantee your CFO is going to be very appreciative if he learns that you have a relationship where there might be an issue with your supplier and it's something that you may need to adjust and maybe even pivot your company strategy on, or engage in new supplier relationships and look at that supply chain pipeline there. So now we talked about how, more control on how when payments are made. So how do we do that, right? Just kind of looking at how technology might play a role here, and we'll get into that more in a little bit. How it can benefit cash management. We talked about process efficiently. So one of the things that companies are measuring more, you should be measuring, is how much does it cost to process an invoice. So automation allows us to save time and remove productivity drags. Again, we talked about strengthening supplier relationships and not only giving us predictability about Treasury predictability. We can also let our suppliers know when they're going to get paid, which I'm sure they would really appreciate because that helps them manage their cash better. They know when they're going to receive it. There's savings that we have, right, due to productivity, hard costs, and then the right AP automation tools give you that risk of audit, and just going through audit is painful. If you work in Treasury and you have to trace a transaction all the way back from why the payment was made, was an invoice, was a PO, a lot of those can be done in one place. And so that's also can be time consuming with your internal auditors and your external auditors, and those requests become exponential, maybe especially year-end, quarter-end, if you're going through an acquisition. And so just to put, a fine point on the conversation today, AP done right in 2023 and beyond, what is the value? And so when we start to look at what is the business case for investing in AP automation or people and processes improvement, right? How does that impact the bottom line? We talked about a lot of these. This gives you a great list for the business case, right? You mitigate your processing costs, paying duplicate invoices, time spent, right? Allows you to capture discounts. You can do early payment programs, productivity, right? Mitigation of processing costs based on our mix of payments. We can get rebates and commercial card payments when we collaborate with our suppliers, improves working capital. Again, productivity. So all these things are golden to have value of AP done right to your bottom line. And touching on this now, a little bit about your people and your performance, so about your team, right? Talking about technology, we'll talk more about that. What about performance, right? Your AP team, we want to make sure we have the right environment, and this is important as well in delivering value in 2023 within and across. Beyond AP is we need to keep our people happy. We talk about the great resignation, quiet quitting, all that good stuff. So we want to make sure that we offer our team the right environment. So we want to offer them opportunities for personal growth as well as professional growth. We want to have a culture that gives folks honest communication. People need to feel informed, right? We want to offer praise when it's due. We want to give our folks the power to fail and not feel like they lost their job, lose that fear of failure. We want to have accountability. People need to understand the value that they have, and you have to have a positive environment. An interesting area where I've seen surveys is I've seen a lot of more surveys on mentorship, and so having a mentorship program, formal or informal, it's shown productivity goes up, people stay longer if they have a mentor. So that's something that's incredibly important if you want to retain the folks. And another thing, which is a big factor today in retaining employees, is being on the leading edge of technology. Nobody wants to sit there and do manual tasks and not feel like they have opportunities to improve their skill sets and move up within AP or beyond AP at the company. So throw in some more interesting survey results, right? So we talked about AP, what does AP look like, success beyond? Well, we wanted to see what are the skills that people might want to be investing in for AP to deliver value. Beyond AP, data, cash management, data analytics, AP automation, spreadsheet, those are the top ones. What do all those things have in common? Technology. So companies see that valuable employees have those skills. And so, of course, we have cash management, which is good. Who's the best place to go for cash management? Training is probably your treasury team. So that's good. So we see that's a place where we want to be looking. And then we want to see if folks are having professional development opportunities in order to develop those skills. It's good to see we saw over 40% saying those are going to increase. So again, it's important that we recognize, okay, we might want our team to upgrade our skills, or we might need to hire someone who has certain skills to train up the rest of our team, but we need to allow them the opportunities, right, to do that, so we can make sure that our AP team has the skills that they need in order to deliver the most value. So the climate out there is increasing, and so if you're not doing that at your company, that's something you really need to think about, because it is being done. It is being done by your competitors. Again, advantage on controlling your cash movements and supplier relationships especially can be a competitive advantage for your company. And then we also wanted to just take a look at what those opportunities might be. This is actually from a 2021 survey. I just wanted to get at what some of these opportunities are for you to think about. Formal training, stretch assignments, on action learning projects, AP-related conferences, AP-related certifications, university coursework. And so those things are all things that you can think about. Definitely looking at having folks participate in projects with Treasury, AP, and AR, especially looking around owning the cash conversion cycle. And I've actually had CFOs tell me they have departments swap people for internal internship. So let's say someone from AP is going to work in Treasury for 3 months, and someone in Treasury is going to work in AP. So we really get that understanding and collaboration. And so as we look about professional development opportunities, we should absolutely look at how folks are able to collaborate with their colleagues, not only within the departments, but also across the departments. So let's go ahead and really we'll take a deeper dive into what technology looks like. So we talk about, hey, this is all possible, this is how it works. So let's actually see how it works in practice on technology. Talk about how that works. Before we do that, we're going to ask you our next polling question. So just curious, so I can level set where I've emphasized the technology conversation, just curious where your company at in terms of AP automation. Maybe you've been doing it over a year, you started in the past 12 months, you're in the discovery phase, you're vetting, or you just have no plans, or you really haven't seen the benefit of that yet. So I'm going to leave the polling question up for another 20 seconds or so. Again, those of you interested in receiving a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, please answer all the polling questions. I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of the polling questions today. Those of you that follow me on LinkedIn just saw that I just did a LinkedIn post about some of the survey results that I've been doing. So I've been sharing those. So I want to share those a lot more and share with you what they need, and so what they mean for you and what they mean for me, and why it's important and why it's appreciated when you share your thoughts in our polling question. So let me go ahead and leave that up for another few seconds. Then we'll go ahead and take a peek at those results, and then we'll talk about leading technology and how there are solutions out there where you can do your invoice processing all in one solution and be able to realize all the benefits that I've been talking about and remove those inherent barriers to success we've been talking about in order for you to capitalize on that seat at the strategic table. Let's go ahead and close that. Let's go ahead and share the results real quick. So we got 36% of you, all right, been doing it over a year. So that's good to see. For those of you that have just starting or been doing it a long time, don't feel like you're happy, right? I hope you're happy, but make sure as we go through all these different areas that your company is experiencing these benefits, take a look at, oh, wait a minute, is my solution capable of this? If not, do we want to look? Those of you in the discovery phase, I'm hoping I'm giving you that business case, helping you ask some more questions, letting you know what's out there. And those of you who don't have plans yet or don't see benefits, hopefully we are going to inspire you to have a conversation or just take a look and see what's out there and really take a look at the specific needs your company has and just see there's oftentimes a lot of low-hanging fruit for that ROI for you to realize from that solution, not only what you get, but the customer success on the backside, how you measure that success and how that company supports that success right after the sale is made. So let's dive here a little bit deep in terms of invoicing the all-in-one solution. So I talked with you about all the different areas, the supplier relationship, the friction, the inefficiencies, opportunities to save cost and remove productivity drag. So we're going to take a pretty deep dive, right? So we'll do a little process overview. We'll touch on all these different areas where technology can help AP deliver more value across enterprise and or lower cost in processing accounts payable. So we'll touch on supplier invoice, we'll talk about on the way in. We'll talk about KPIs and dashboards. We'll talk about verification of invoices, workflow, mobile apps, and then we'll talk about ERP integrations, which are getting more and more attention as this market becomes more saturated almost with these solutions out there. So I'm going to share with you some thought leadership from my partners, Esker, and the reason I share these things is because these are the best resources that I found out there in these areas, and I don't have to go out and create them myself. So these are incredibly insightful. They're easy to understand, and so that's the reason I'm sharing them with you. They spoke to me as being a great tool for me, so I give them credit for that's why I love to work with them, one of the reasons. And so, you know, the process interview, and some of these things we're digging in, but some of you, if you're not in the weeds, it's incredibly important. You might not understand the challenges, right, that your AP team faces, your colleagues face. Maybe you're the CFO, I never knew this, you're the treasury manager, wow, I didn't know this was so complicated. So you can understand how to collaborate with AP if you're not an AP and help them offer more value. Guess what? They want to work more with you. They want to help you on predictability of when cash is going out, right? And so giving you heads up so they'll make you more productive. So supplier submits invoices. Well, there's a step for that, right? We need to onboard them and make sure they're okay and all that good stuff. Invoices are queued for verification, and then we have a split here. We'll go down this path for now. So well, it depends on what your industry is, right? But I was in manufacturing, so I like to go POs, invoices. That might go to specialists. You have to have invoice verification, and then you have to clear the exceptions, final review, you know, ERP, and this is just getting the process overview, and then archiving. Then we have non-PO. Then we have to have intervention, ERP posting. So you're kind of going outside of the normal process here with the non-PO invoices. And so it just gives you a way to see. Part of it for me is you see all the different parties involved, right? So you see your supplier, right? You have the AP specialist. You may have another person, a manager, requester. You might have someone from treasury, and also think about the different systems involved, right? To get from here to here, or maybe you don't have any type of system as well, just your ERP, or not even an ERP. So think about all the places there. So I like to talk about managing relationships, and so I want to show you what. So I mentioned supplier portal. So it's really a way to streamline the onboarding process, the communication process, eliminate asymmetry of information. So just kind of an example here, supplier email invitation, right? And this is really key to give them the opportunity to have a self-service portal. I know you might have to train them a little bit on the technology, but you're sharing the workload with the supplier. You're giving them some ownership of that. You're also throwing off some risk in terms of bank relationships, right, and things like that. So you can also let them say the way they'd like to be paid, let them have a choice, see if you're willing to do that. It gives you one place to maybe house your contracts, and so your approval workflow, it goes in there so you can see the status of things. So one, you want to get them onboarded as quickly, as efficiently as possible, and that relationship starts out of the gate. So you're giving that as a really good first impression, right? Self-service, you can see the information. You can communicate within the platform as well. You can see the process, and then you can use this data in your system, and you can use that to integrate with your ERP, right? Your vendor master, which used to be the bane of my existence in treasury, but this can also help us make sure that there's no duplicate supplier record created, but can also help us make sure that our parent-children relationships are correct in our ERP system. And so I've been in a situation where we have a company has multiple subsidiaries across multiple countries, and so we got to make sure that we have that parent-child relationship set up right, the bank account information. So you can spend hours if that master record, vendor master, is not correct, and there's ways that these supplier portals can help us audit those and make sure that we are in alignment, and let us be proactive there. So we talked about the steps, what about the capture and dispatch? And so what we want to do there is we want to make this as painless as possible. Those of you that have dealt with this before, been in AP a long time, this can be an issue, especially when we used to get a lot of things maybe in the mail, right? So it's good to have a solution that'll allow you to exchange documents different ways that is flexible, right? Electronic data exchange, email, fax. We talked about the portal. And so we want to dispatch invoices, leading solutions let you do that per user, per company code and special queues. And then really what really sets apart some of the solutions out there is the ability for batch handling and actually using AI to do that batch handling. So that takes, I would say, that really transforms something from to a more deep machine learning, because you can split those invoices and it learns how to route those invoices. And so getting them in the door, right? And then also on the AI side, just when you're getting information from certain suppliers, maybe there's something that always needs to be changed, and the system tracks not only where to find the information you need, but also maybe their invoices have a funky format and I always have to go in there and change something, so the AI will automatically adjust that if you can't go back and ask, if we just can't go and go and have that automatically generated out. So we might not be able to meet every request there. So dashboards, right? Key information. So you have, allows you the flexibility there. And the dashboards, you can customize those dashboards. And so a lot of this is good to remove bottlenecks. And so you can see where bottlenecks are. 6 invoices are on hold. You can see why. You can see who's got them. You can slice and dice the security permissions. And then you can do metrics, right, and see what's going on. You can see what the process are, what's holding things up, right? And then those of you who are in the world of POs, I actually did a white paper on this many years ago. I never knew there was so much friction here in just the PO verification, PO matching, getting that in line, getting that in line with your ERP system, right? PO verification. So some systems have automatic three-way matching and has good exception handling. And so just think about all the times we talk about inefficiencies across the process. Just think about those of you who have a lot of issues and headwinds with PO verification. This could be a key to your value fee proposition. Now we talked about the ability, the AI piece of it, right? Contract-based invoice verification. And so it allows you to keep track of invoices, again, contract terms, and we can expedite those that we have contracts with. And then we can set up risk areas where, right, we want to auto reject non-compliant invoices. So just some of the things on that side of it. Your AP staff, you have more control. You're going to reduce your processing time. And again, auto rejecting those, and then you have automatically anomaly detection. So there's things that are already built in, but then based on your company's experience, we're going to start to see things. You can set certain areas where there's a variance. Maybe there's you want to set a variance. It's usually like the invoice amount. It's usually 5 cents or whatever. It's $62, or there's numbers that are going to set off these automatic red flags. Look for things, price discrepancies, quantity discrepancies, anything that's on the invoice that looks out of place. It's gonna automatically flag those and make sure that they are kicked out for review, and make sure those don't slip through the cracks. And that's a good risk mitigation tool. And then one of the places where there can be a lot of productivity lost is your payment approval workflow. And so for me, when I was in Treasury, there were certain things I needed to sign, like every check over $5,000, or I needed to approve all the wire batches every week and do things like that. and we had to have dual approval on things. And so to not be able to do that, if I was out of office, was painful. To not be able to have the information that I really needed to make an educated right decision. I'm trying to be a control, but if I don't have access to the information, then I don't control, because I spent a lot of time going over to AP and asking for backup on things that looked out of place to me that someone else might not have caught. So it's all in one place. You can see for a person, they can look in and they can see, is there anything for me? You can send them email notifications if they're holding something up. If there's questions, you can put things on hold, you can ask questions, you can send things, and you can have access to the backup, right? And this is really exciting to me. You can see the user comments log. So you can see, hey, I only put this on hold. I can put a note in there. Hey, I'm putting this on hold. Please send me backup, or please comment back and let me know what's going on. And instead of having to walk over there or wait, and if I'm on the road and maybe we have a time difference, someone's in Germany or something, I'm going to be able to make sure that those payments aren't getting held up. And then on the similar front, the invoice review workflow, it gives you the ability to actually have a process around the workflow. And so just to have workflow roles, these are just examples: AP specialists, reviewers, approvers, buyers, receivers, and then you can see in real time what the progress is, where it's at in the workflow, and then we can have rules-based workflow where things normally go based on certain characteristics. And so it's just it's a nice UI to keep that process moving forward. So a lot of times companies have potential discounts, but sometimes you can't even take discounts if you can't process an invoice right within 10 days or whatever that might be, or you might lose control of your DPO because once it gets in that certain point, it's hard to take control of that. So someone's asking about quantitative KPIs. So there's a lot of different metrics that we can talk about. So some of these are first of all, if you look at it, you can look at it per payment type, check, right? Check, ACH, maybe a wire, card payment, whatever the types of payments are. So you want to look at all the costs that are going into that, from A to Z, from when that comes in, how much time someone's spending, how much time's on the approval side, all the way to the end. So there's those people costs as well. Maybe there are people on the phone from A to Z, capturing those things. A lot of companies will have estimates of the cost of specific payment types, and then you can see the value, right? Let's say I convert 20% of my customers from check to ACH. It costs me $10 a piece for check and $1 a piece for ACH. I got $9 value there times the number of invoices. Boom, that's an easy win. I can see the time, right? My person's spending 20 hours a month less on disputes with suppliers. This is how much they make. This is how much the hard dollar savings is on that side. So those are just a few of the things we can look at, and then we can look at the benefits of discounts, right? What's the visibility? What is it that we're able to see? So before we had available to take $100 million in discounts, we only saw 500,000. So this month we had visibility, so we got 1% on $5 million. Boom, there's my benefit, right? So you're looking at what's going to be the value if I change things, but also you can assess, okay, if you're looking at a check, okay, it costs me this amount of money. So after I implement the software, right, that cost went from $10 to $5. So you can start to put some numbers across there. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone offline. A lot of the providers, including Esker, have some great tools there. Really, you can do some high-level calculation. It's just based on the types of payments, number of payments, how you do your payments, right, the amount of electronification and things like that. So I appreciate the question we just touched on. early payment discounts. So again, we need to be able to see that those are available, and then we have to be able to process things quickly enough to take those, but also avoiding late penalties. It's so maybe we're expecting something to be able to be done, but once it gets caught, right, it gets caught in that bottleneck, we're not sure. So it might not be on purpose, and we may have to creep it up, but we don't want to get fined because we don't want a late fee. Obviously, we don't want a legal fine. We want happy suppliers. So obviously, we want to avoid late penalties. So that's something, right, that we also might want to keep track of on our contracts and invoices. Do we have a late payment fee? What is that? And we also might have a fee for how we make those payments. People might say, hey, I want to be paid this way. So I want you to pay you by check, or it's going to cost you X, Y, Z. We talked about mobile approval. So again, it's not only the fact that you can do it, it's all the different things that you can do. You're logged into the system. Okay, what is it that's expected of me, right? What can I do? I get that approval, the audit trail, right? So this is what I can do. I can see it. I don't want it. Put on hold. Approve. And so just some of the features on the mobile stuff. You can get access to this data. You can get documents, line items. You can get how it's coded. You can get original and supporting downloads. So it's just like being in the office, having it all in one place, boom, all in the cloud. Pull those things up. And then we talked about ERP integration. So that really allows us to share that information optimally across different departments and keep that flow going. And good receipt and invoice verification, align with the master records, make sure that the information is going in, especially on the ERP side, not especially in AP, but AR, things like Cash App, and then maybe we have a credit limit, of what we can order for supplies, so we don't want to run into that and not be able to get what we need. So we want to have that. We want to have that visibility. We want to have that version of the truth, which lies in our ERP system, and make sure that those things align. So so we talked a lot about, AP done right, what that looks like, people, process, technology. We have seen that the expectations of accounts payable teams are going up, right? The complexity is going up, the number of invoices is going up. So those things are inherently challenging, but we're seeing that companies are investing in people and professional development opportunities for people, and we are seeing investments in technology, and we've really shown the value that can be realized from empowering your AP team with technology, those best practices. We shared with you 10 ways AP impacts the bottom line. Also want to point out to you that you can take it to another level, and this is unique. This is probably one of my favorite graphics, and this is unique in the marketplace for technology. But you get to do both sides of the house here, AP and AR. So you can have one system, right, where that cash conversion cycle. So just as for everyone, but this is for my treasury folks out there, right? So you can have one place to manage that, see it, leverage AI in all these different areas. We want to take control of every cash movement. We want to have visibility into that. We want to be able to have predictability in those cash movements and control them and optimize our relationships with our suppliers and customers. And now it's possible for you to do all those things in the cloud in a cost-effective manner. So just something to keep in your mind. And then let me go ahead and give you some key takeaways from our time today. Again, expectations of AP definitely on the rise. Companies are investing in people and technology. We need visibility across all processes to remove friction. Technology empowers better supplier relationship management, which delivers more value of how and when payments are made. And at the end of the day, AP done right impacts the bottom line, and we're showing that best practices not only should we should all expect that, but we're seeing in a lot of cases 40 to 50% of just survey sample sizes showing that they are able to do that across companies of all sizes. So I'm going to go ahead and launch final polling question here today. Also, want to take the opportunity to once again thank my thought leadership partner, Esker. They have some great thought leadership resources on their website, so I encourage you to go to the Esker website as well and take a look at those thought leadership resources. They'd be happy to have a conversation with you about all the great things they do to facilitate success and ownership of the cash conversion cycle. So happy to have those conversations as well. Also want to let everyone know of an upcoming event. I am hosting the first ever FP&A tools demo day, so I'm going to ask if you'd like to be included in that. In the slide, I asked you to look across the CFO stack. So we're going to look at 10 leading companies in the space. We're going to look at the FP&A tools landscape, the selection process, how to build a business case, and business partnering. So that's going to be an exciting event for you. If we see good traction there, we may get into having some AP demo showcases and some AR demo showcases, and also CFO tech showcases as well. So please be looking for those things from us. And finally, I want to give a thank you to my audience members that took the time to attend our session today. Please let me know what we can do better. Again, if you want a certificate of attendance or a copy of this presentation, please send an email to Ernie@TreasuryWebinars.com. Thank you very much, everyone. Make the rest of your day great.